or a soundtrack recording of Gypsy? How old were you? How old were you? Where were you, and what impact did it have on you? Let's start with you, Laura.
I had never heard a recording ever. And I haven't listened to ours yet either. But I get to hear it every night. So that's that.
I will confess that the first time I ever sat down was soundtrack, although I certainly heard a lot of the material did, but was a year ago, more than a year and a half ago, when I was approached about doing it. I actually sat down and listened.
I grew up on that bullshit.
How old were you when you first heard it, and what impact did it have on you?
Well, I grew up on Long Island, and in the A&P there weren't the, by the checkout, there weren't the rags. There were Ed Sullivan Presents, second casts of Kiss Me Kate, Pal Joey, Roberta, for $1. So we would buy the cast album. My mother would buy them for me to listen, for her to listen, for family to listen. So I think that's where my Gypsy cast recording comes from. No. But that is my musical education. So somewhere along the line, somebody got a hold of the Gypsy album, and I couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old. And I write this in the liner notes that the Dainty June's "I Have a Moo Cow, a True Cow, a Blue Cow" was my favorite song until I heard Tulsa's "All I Need Is the Girl." So I was like, well, I could probably play Dainty June, and maybe it'd be a stretch, but maybe I could play Tulsa. Then I heard the strippers number, and I wanted to play Mazeppa, because she had a funny tough voice, and she played the trumpet. Rose was never a consideration, because I was a kid, and it was a confusing part, or not part, songs. I didn't get them, you know. I got the kid songs and the stripper songs. Sing along with sing along with the stripper.
One of the extraordinary things of this production is how much it packs an emotional wallop, as strong as Long Day's Turkey and Tonight. And I think that must have been something that you worked out with Arthur from the beginning, that it plays like a play with music. Can you tell us a little bit about how you worked that out?
Well, that's something you may sound very fun. Arthur, from the get-go, I've heard Patty say something that's quite true, is that a funny thing happened when we started rehearsing at City Center, which is we didn't have the full cast until the second week. And so we sat around the table and dissected the play, and it really was a play. We spoke the words to the song, and really attacked it as you would any other straight play. And I think that's been Arthur's intent from the beginning, and we still continue to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Arthur did say to me when we spoke on the phone that he wanted to cast this with actors, and he wanted to, I suppose, because of that, approach it as a play. And then, I don't know if he remembers that, but in the course of our around the tables, which have been extensive, he said that this had never been rehearsed before. That the play had never, scenes in the play had never been rehearsed, basically. Which is, we couldn't believe it, because it's such it's a play that can stand on its own. Mm-hmm. So and I think because he did have actors who were willing to question him and continue to investigate. I mean, the 11 principals were on the table. We've been around the table for a long time. He started to investigate it in a different way and approach it in a different way, I think, than the other productions he's been involved in.
When you are in a musical that has been revived, I think, and somebody will correct me, I'm sure if I'm wrong, at least 4 times on Broadway, and there are so many records of it, do you have to sort of negate that anybody has played this role before and approach it totally fresh? Do you ever refer to the Merman album to see how she may have done Madame Rose or Brendan?
I seem to make a career out of reviving. I remember Liz McCann sidling up to me at a bar and went, "Oh, the woman that upstages Merman, or thinks she's going to upstage Merman," and this was Anything Goes. I went, "You weren't around when she played. What are you talking about?"
I wish I was around.
I don't think that I've never gone, "Oh dear." I just sort of approached the play and approached the music as if for the first time. And I think it's the healthiest way to do it because there's no fear of imitation. Your choices are not limited because she's made that choice and you may have made that choice had you been allowed to discover it, whatever. So I always start from A and try not to let the actresses who have left imprints on the parts intimidate me.
You go to some pretty dark places in this play, each of you. To what extent, and I guess the lay public is always interested, to what extent an actor draws on their own personal histories when they come to play a role? Whether it be... Well, I was going to ask you this because I think in an interview, a recent interview, you had talked about feeling like an ugly duckling growing up in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And were you going to use that in creating...
Jersey. We're in Manhattan now. I can't believe it. I was like I wasn't just an awkward kid. I was a really ugly kid. I was. I'll bring pictures. Well, everyone can see I have super curly hair, and I decided to cut it myself. And then I had to get it layered with bangs, and then my mom decided to brush it out because she hates me again. So. Too low, man, I'm just kidding. Maybe it's the 80s, I put a scrunchie in and it was good. But I really spent a lot of time in my room by myself, singing along to Cass albums. I mean, singing along to Patty, truly to Evita. I mean, but I actually fell off my dresser because I was singing. It was the only mirror in there. I hope that never stops. I hope that happens the entire time. I think it's soothing. But the only mirror in my room was my big dresser, so I climbed up on it and I was singing. I was singing at the very end. Anyway, I'm not going to sing it. And my dad walked into the room and I went, "Ah!" And I started singing because I didn't want him to know that I was bored. So I spent a lot of time in my room. I spent a lot singing along to past albums, and it wasn't until I had my first solo in 5th grade that my town was like, "The Afro girl can sing." And then I gained, but I felt really alone. I felt really alone for a huge part of my life until I found gel. So, "Mama, I'm pretty. I'm a pretty girl," like actually happened to me.